Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we dive deep into personal transformation, mindfulness, and growth. Today, we are exploring a unique intersection of personal dynamics and business leadership, the impact of codependency on leadership, and how to overcome it. We are joined by our guest, Denise Lee, the business mindset catalyst who specializes in helping leaders and solo entrepreneurs turn their challenges into transformative growth. Denise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sana, so much for having me today.
Great. So, listeners, before we proceed on to the discussion, I would love to introduce a bit about my guest with all of you. So, Denise brings over a decade of experience in business coaching, offering actionable strategies to help business owners simplify decision making and achieve success. And today's conversation on the Mindful Living podcast will focus on how codependency can affect business leaders and the steps you can take to regain control and thrive. So, Denise, welcome again to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you today with us.
So glad that we're here. I'm ready to get into the conversation.
Awesome, awesome. So, can you start by explaining what codependency looks like in a business or a leadership context?
That's a really great question, because when we often hear about codependency, we're thinking it in the context of romance, where you are enraptured with a person, don't really have firm boundaries about what you will and will not do. And we always think that it's always contained in that romantic area, but it's not that way. It can transform into others. Let's specifically talk about work. What codependency looks like at work is feeling a sense of indebtedness, a sense of intense responsibility for the emotional well-being of another person to the detriment of your organization and, frankly, to the leader themselves.
Mm-hmm. And how can a codependent mindset manifest in a business leader's decision making process? And what impact does it have on the overall health of their business?
So there isn't really one particular thing that causes codependency in the work environment. It's usually how we kind of take trash from one area of our life to another. Oftentimes, leaders think that, well, I can just contain my emotional problems at my home life or my personal life, but it won't bleed into my work. Unfortunately, it does. And so I want to share with the listeners about 10 signs that they are exhibiting codependent signs at work. There is low self-esteem, difficulty setting boundaries, excessive caretaking, denial of problems, difficulty with conflict, addictive behavior, difficulty ending unhealthy relationships, and lack of personality. I'm going to talk in more specifics so everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is thinking as if you're not okay unless everyone's okay with the decisions that you make. Perhaps you're creating a new initiative and you really want to make sure everyone's on board. But if everyone's not on board, you're feeling distraught or sad about the fact that everybody is not happy and you feel bad about yourself. Difficulty setting boundaries. Again, we go to the beginning of our conversation where you don't know where you begin and the other person's end. When you feel as if your people need to be reaching you at 3:00 in the morning, when you should be sleeping, that's a clear sign that there's something terribly wrong with how people can access you and when people know that you're off.
That's right.
Excessive caretaking. What does that look like? Excessive caretaking is when you feel like you have to go above and beyond what is needed as an employer. For example, I had one client who thought it was her responsibility to pick up her team members' kids from daycare because they were working on a project.
Okay. That sounds a little bit strange.
Denial of problems. I mean, most people, when they come to me, they have had not months, not years, sometimes decades of having insubordinate, rude. I literally had one client said one of her team members would say F you.
Oh, God.
During a heated conversation. And she said, well, she's just emotional.
No.
Difficulty with conflict. This is a big one, especially for people who have come from traumatic lifestyles where they were dealing with people who didn't know how to contain their emotions, how to be clear about their expectations. And for some business owners, they just want to avoid it altogether. They'll say, well, you know what? I'll let my associate handle it. I mean, I remember I had one client who had literally had a VA who did the explicit job of firing people on her behalf because she didn't want to deal with it.
That's
so
difficult, and it sounds very, very serious. Very serious.
I want to quickly go over the last three, and then I'll jump into the other ones, because I truly want people to understand that it looks different for everybody, and you may not be able to relate to all these stories, but maybe at least some of the stories I'm saying that you could be able to relate with. Addictive behavior. There are a lot of people who have co-addictive behavior, meaning that not only do they feel enmeshed with or deeply overly concerned about their employees, they may be overworking. It's not uncommon, especially for new business owners, to be working 14, 16 hours a day for the sake of working. And so they're oblivious to the fact that their health is declining. They're not feeling any energy. They're feeling lethargic. And so they're letting their relationships go haywire.
True. That's true. And it's
difficulty ending unhealthy relationships. This is where people are not choosing to hit that terminate button. I mean, I remember thinking about one particular client. She was a law practice, and she had her business manager embezzle up to $90,000 from the trust account. And she still had difficulty firing and then suing them because she thought her business manager just was under hard times.
Okay.
And lastly, lack of personality. For a lot of us, if we've been addicted to wanting to please, we don't really know when we are overstepping what is needed and necessary in terms of dealing with our people. We may have been used to working over backwards, and we think that's normal. But when we have people that we're paying to help us, we can't do that. We have to define who we are. We might shapeshift ourselves. We might want to be the fun-loving person. I remember one particular client of mine, he would go to happy hours, even though he struggled with alcoholism, because he wanted to be seen as the cool boss.
Exactly. Those are very, very tough situations to deal with, very tough decisions to make with. Denise, from your experience, why is it so common for entrepreneurs, leaders, especially the ones who are just transitioning into this role, to fall into patterns of codependency, particularly while managing people or working with clients?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Sana. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, but it's kind of to the point we talked about earlier, that we have a tendency of treating people the way that we were treated in our prior working relationships, in our home life. For example, if you grew up and you were so used to getting attention when you said the right things or made people feel happy, you would think that's normal. And it didn't change when you were an employee working under someone and you thought, well, that's how. And then when you became self-employed, and you're doing well and you're getting new clients because you were always willing to go above and beyond, that habit's kind of hard to break. And you may feel like if you feel your only validation comes from pleasing others at the expense of your emotional, physical well-being.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. And you have worked with many business leaders to help them break free from these patterns. So, how does this entire process work? If you can share an example to show how someone was able to overcome codependency and transform their leadership style, especially for the new ones.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Sana, because we can't fix what we can't pin to someone else that has walked the same path as they have. And so I'm think because of privacy reasons, I can't name their specific name, but like let's just call her Anna. Okay, we'll call her Anna, and I'll go back to the example of the business manager situation where the embezzlement of $90,000 worth of funds. The first and most important thing was acknowledging what happened.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of us, we don't want to acknowledge because it brings issues of shame, self-pity. We think we're going to be judged. Oh, you're supposed to be smart. You're a lawyer. You're this and that. You should know better. So the first and most important thing is let's take away that shame and that self-pity and that judgment we think that's attached to our ability to relate well, or in this case, poorly with our employee. So let's just do that. Because I think we can't really heal until we are able to take away labels that are limiting and defeating.
Mm-hmm.
The second step, and I'm specifically thinking about that particular client, is actually coming up with a vision of who you are and how you want to be treated. For a lot of people who suffer with codependency, especially professionals, employers, they've been doing this for so many years, they never thought there was any other way to be treated. They thought that being ridiculed or ignored or disrespected was something that they just had to get used to. And the fact of the matter, it wasn't. So creating that vision for yourself of how you want to be treated has to be being really concrete and clear about, okay, this is how I want to be treated. This is why it's important. And this is how I'm going to enforce people being treated. Because if you could have all the grandiose visions about how you want to be treated, but if you don't have an action plan that backs up exactly what that looks like, it's like me going to a fast food restaurant and saying, I want roti and rice and all this stuff. And they ask, how are you going to pay for them? Like, with my smile. They're not going to oblige you. So it's going to have to be backed up with something. Obviously, in that example, it's like backed up with money. In the case of a business owner, it's backed up with consequences, termination, referral to legal authorities if necessary. Make sure that there's teeth behind what you want to do, because otherwise people are not going to take you seriously and just say, shoo away.
Exactly. Exactly. I 500% agree with that, Denise. So, what practical strategies do you recommend to for leaders who recognize codependent tendencies in themselves and they want to shift toward healthier and more empowering behaviors?
For people who are listening to this, you might feel a little uncomfortable. You might have your jaw clenched and your butt cheeks tight as we're talking, because we're putting a spotlight on something that's uncomfortable. So before I even give my tips, I want us to take a deep breath, relax everything, unclench everything, and just understand that what I have to share is not incrimination about what you did or what you didn't do or your background, but it's understanding a pathway forward. And with that being said, in order for us to move forward, again, it's about creating that vision about what we want, understanding why we don't want what we have before. I think about some of my experiences with even hiring some people in the past before. And the reason why it ended so terribly was because I had no clear idea about how I wanted to be treated and how it looked like practical standpoint. So for some of you guys, it may be literally getting clear about writing down, okay, I want people that respects my time. I want people that respect how I interact with them, and I won't tolerate certain things. I want everyone who is listening to get a strong no list. We have a yes list. Like, I want a bigger car. I want to live in a better area. I want cooler friends. I want to be on TEDx or whatever, right? But we don't have no's.
True.
So what is your no? I don't want employees that say F me,
Yep.
F you.
Yep.
I don't want to deal with people who think it's okay to throw stuff in my office. I mean, I'm saying ridiculous things because for a lot of us, we're dealing with ridiculous behaviors.
Yep. That's true. It's a professional environment and you have to behave professionally. As simple
Exactly.
as simple as that. Great. And codependency it also often involves being or placing others' needs above your own. And how can leaders strike that right balance, being supportive and also the toughest part, maintaining clear boundaries in their professional relationships?
That's Sana, that's exactly what I hear a lot from people, because you want to create an awesome environment where everyone feels like they can backflip into your office and everyone's having parties and a great time because happy people work better, right?
Yeah,
We don't want to turn this place into a rave club where everyone's snorting lines of coke and doing nothing.
definitely. No.
So we got to, I'm making extreme points because I think people need to understand where our ideal and reality aren't syncing up. And so what we have to do is bridge the gap where we're creating friction so that we understand, like, this is not a frat party. This is not a club. This is a place of business. But I want people to have fun and engage. So this is where I go and I ask my client, I said, what are you doing to infuse structure? Because usually when there's codependency issues, there's a lack of structure. Maybe in the beginning of hiring people, there was no such thing as a lunch hour or work break. It was like, get it done when you get it done. Yep. And that's cool when you're by yourself and you're working 14 hours a day as a solopreneur. But that's not kind of cool when you have people. So creating that structure is making sure that, all right, we're going to do things that's reasonable, legal, keyword legal, all right? And mutual agreed upon. This is where I always recommend people, my client, like, have a meeting with your people and say, hey, look, what's reasonable in terms of how much time we put for our socializing, our lunch breaks, all the other things that we do. And this is something that you can do when you've got smaller teams, 10 or smaller. When you've got bigger teams, you got to do a little bit more structure. But when you've got a small crew, be flexible and work with them because they might come up with ideas that you may not have even considered.
Exactly.
So I think it all starts with understanding yourself, creating that structure, and then working with your people to make sure that you find a mutually agreed upon mode of conduct at work.
Definitely. And it's crystal clear that self-awareness plays a very, very crucial role in overcoming codependency. So are there any mindfulness practices which you would suggest for leaders to foster this awareness?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Sana. And I think for a lot of us who run businesses, we have gotten great at the business of busyness. Oh, something's buzzing. I got to attend to that. Somebody's calling my attention. I got to go from this meeting to next. Oh, I've got to do all these appearances. And we never slow down and recognize when there's moments when you're feeling a pit in your stomach, right? Or you're feeling a little lightheaded, right? We try to push through. And that same energy translates into how we deal with people, Sana. You know, when you're talking with someone and you're not feeling them, your eyes might glaze to the side. You might nod your head a little bit, like a little bobblehead, where you know you want to be agreeable, and your eyes dart, just like, you know, those physical cues I'm not feeling this. I don't want to go there with that person. And so take that energy and be aware of it. And so the best way of doing that is meditation. I know you guys are listening, like, how many people out there talk about meditation? I know a zillion people. And I'm not a meditation specialist, so you're not going to hear about meditation from me. But I will do is telling you those moments of silence, even like 2 minutes a day, all right? To pause and let your mind tune out to what you got going on, what's itching, what's buzzing around you. And those moments of silence will help you to be really intentional about how you feel, right?
Definitely.
Once you get connected with how you feel, you'll be more attuned to something's off, something's wrong, and something needs to change.
Definitely. Okay, wow. And in your personal journey, Denise, you faced your own challenges with fear and financial instability. How did you overcome these issues, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who may be dealing with similar struggles?
Oh, that's a podcast episode within itself. I mean, I've been in so many interesting situations personally and professionally dealing with codependency issues. I mean, I remember sitting in an office of one and boss I had. This is when I was working in the federal government sector, and literally they said, "How stupid can you be? Do better."
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
And that's literally putting it mildly. There was stronger words than that. And then that moment, I thought, well, if I try harder, if I just do everything more, I can make them like me. But Sana, I was not liking myself.
Hmm.
So if you have to chop yourself down in order to build someone up,
That's not the right way to do.
no, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. So my question to those who are listening is, in what areas are you chopping yourself down? What areas are you making yourself look small?
I think it's never, never, ever the right way to do, but we as humans, we always tend to do that because, often we always believe in pleasing people around us, saying yes to everything just to make sure that they like us back. That's a tendency. In fact, I also have. So I completely agree with your point. It's never the right.
Yeah. And you notice how we were talking, I gave you that space to step in to who you, like you were remembering things. You were feeling how it felt not to be validated for who you really were. Give yourself the permission to have that space.
That's true. And my next question again on this itself, it is how can leaders transition from seeking external validation to finding confidence and validation from within, Denise?
It's so funny, son. I remember I was talking with someone the other day and they said, well, you're a self-help specialist. And I'm like, self means that you're going to yourself on top of a mountain and chanting and like having some divine wisdom being downloaded from some ethereal like energy. That's not how that really works. The same way that you're interviewing fabulous, talented people, I talk with people who are fabulous and talented at being more awesome at being me. And so in the beginning, nobody knows what they're doing. Like, for example, did you know how to feed and burp yourself when you were a baby?
Nope.
Like I always laugh when people say, I want to be confident. I want to like break away from pleasing others. And it never does it dawn on them like, do you even know what the model of pleasing yourself looks like? Because all of us are surrounded with other people pleasers and then wondering why we all feel confused and lost.
True. That's true.
So my best step for everybody who's listening is that, but you need to get away from the people who make you feel bad.
Yep.
You're never going to get well in the place that you're getting sick. So if you need to I always tell people, cut more than add. And I'm not trying to say like we have to like cut everybody off and like only surround with people who seem wealthy, healthy, and sexy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cutting ourselves energetically from things that make us feel less than who we are. I live in the United States. I know people who are listening are in India and all other parts of the world. And here we're having our US elections. And Sana, this is draining. It's
Yeah.
draining. To talk to two people who are deeply disconnected from the common man, talk about how they're going to solve my problems. I don't hate myself enough to be engaged in that stuff.
True.
So, what are you doing that elevates you? What are you disconnecting from stuff that makes you feel less than you? That's the first step. Because so many of us are just trying to pile on more, thinking if we just do more, we'll feel better. And actually, we're feeling worse.
Exactly. Wow. And Denise, lastly, for leaders, anyone, especially leaders and managers who want to cultivate a healthy, thriving business mindset, what would be your top three tips for breaking free from limiting patterns and stepping into their full potential?
You're only limiting me to 3? That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Okay, so let's make it infinite.
See, I like that. The best and number one thing that I want everybody who's listening to understand, and this is a great time if you're a note taker. I'm a note taker, prolific. Like anybody talking, anybody interesting, I'm like, get rid of my notepad, write everything down. Okay, so listen to what I have to say, okay? Because I may not remember it even like 2 minutes from now. So this is the best I gotta give. The first thing is dare to be you. We got like 8 billion people in the world, and everyone has different teeth, different fingernails, but we're trying to be copies of what we see trending on TikTok. That don't make no sense to me.
Yeah.
That don't make no sense to me. Dare to be you. Do you like to cock your head back like a bobblehead when you laugh? Own that. Do you like to make jokes about animals or whatever? Or you want to tell people about your cat jokes? Like, knock yourself out. Everyone needs, this is like marketing 101. In order for you to attract, you have to be willing to release.
Definitely.
Own who you are. Second thing is mind your mind. And so, mind your mind. Well, what does that mean? Look, here's the thing. I don't know about you, but I got buzzing on my phone all day. Join this, buy that, read this, go here, right? And I'm no different than a cat chasing a laser on the wall. You know, that looks funny, right? You get the little laser and then you see the cat kind of chasing it, right?
Yeah.
We're doing the exact same thing online, Sana. Chasing, searching, being grabbed by whoever is pointing something shiny and flashing. Are they worth your attention?
Exactly.
Every single person that screams holler need help.
Yeah.
I say no. It goes back to what I mentioned earlier, the subtraction game.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I am proud, Sana, to tell you that I'm the queen of unsubscribes. Oh, new house for sale, unsubscribe. Oh, new anti-aging project, unsubscribe. Get good. I mean, here's the thing. They got to do what they got to do to eat, to, sell themselves, promote themselves, and that's fine. But why am I inundating myself with information that is not necessarily attached to what I want? And that's about minding your mind, being careful about the things that you consume. And also mind your mind is being mindful of the things that you say to yourself. So now how many times have we done something that we think was a mistake and said, oh, I'm so stupid?
Multiple times.
You're hypnotizing yourself to believing you're stupid when you say that. It's stupid to call yourself stupid.
That's true.
Mind your mind. It will chatter. I mean, I bet someone's listening to this episode right now, and they're thinking about all the ways they screwed up, all the things that they should have done better, or the people who've mistreated, and they're letting their minds overcloud all the negativity. Look, it takes 1/10 of a second to think negative because our brain's wired that way, but it takes a full 20 seconds to think positively. Have we had enough investment in loving ourselves? Sana, the moment that you messed up, have you said, I love the way I'm learning how to take rest?
Definitely, definitely. Great. Wow. That was really, really energetic, Denise. And if our listeners want to connect with you and explore how you are helping address these issues and also spreading the awareness on the impact of codependency on leadership, how they can connect with that.
Thank you so much for asking. The best and most important place for people to find me is on my website, DeniseGLee.com, always with the G, because if you look up Denise Lee, you're going to bring up a whole bunch of other people. I'm not an oral surgeon. I'm not I'm a marketing coach. Like DeniseGLee.com. There you'll be able to read articles. I'm also the host of the Introverted Entrepreneur podcast, over 600 episodes on mindfulness, codependency, not specifically that, but just how to understand who you are so that you can work and live better. But the best place to find me is, again, on my website, DeniseGLee.com.
Thank you so much, Denise. And we'll definitely mention all the links in the show notes for our listeners to refer to. And Denise, once again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today. Your insights on overcoming codependency in business leadership will undoubtedly resonate with many of our listeners. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for anyone interested in learning more about Denise's work, be sure to check out the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And to add on, whether you are leading a team or running a business solo, breaking free from limiting patterns can lead to transformative growth. And thank you to everyone for joining us on the Mindful Living podcast. Until next time, take care and keep nurturing your personal and professional well being. This is your host, Sana, signing off.